This is an open letter to Jon Stewart. Hello, sir. How are you? Bravo. Hope everything is fine. Everybody's doing well. Bravo, Mr. Jon Stewart. You brought a guy to the screen, at least for me. The gentleman was unknown to me up to this point, and I'm glad you brought him as a guest. I believe it's called Rory Stewart. It's the same last name as yours, apparently. You know, the Ashkenazi Stewart and the Anglo-Saxon Stewart meet. So here's the thing, sir. I'm glad you brought this gentleman forward because, let's put it this way, I quote him. The quote is not verbatim because I don't have that kind of memory, but so the quote was basically him saying he went on a rant of regarding why he got out of politics. So Mr. Rory Stewart goes on this rant that yes, it was tiresome begging for money and this and that, sort of like these motherfuckers should listen to me and pay me, not demand of me listening to them because they're more stupid than I. Anyway, beside the point. The gentleman in part of this rant, he went as far as saying that I was there sitting balancing the budget in one committee or other as a politician in the British political system and behind the desk and balancing budget, while at the same time I really wished I could be, in Afghanistan bayoneting some natives. I don't have great memory, so maybe he said he wants to do something else for the natives. But I heard bayoneting the natives. So the gentleman doesn't like to sit as a British, what he was a former British colonial soldier, conservative and racist to the core. He literally, a British, so enthusiastic about killing and war that he said it himself, came out of his mouth, that he was bored out of his mind in these political committees. He would have rather be in Afghanistan doing something to the natives. This was this gentleman that you interviewed. All you have to know about this guy is this claim, this statement. All you have to hear is that, and just imagine who you're dealing with. All I had to hear was that to imagine who I'm dealing with. And unfortunately, you were gushing over this gentleman. I'm not sure why. Not a thing he said made sense, as far as humanity is concerned. He says he likes colonialism, he likes imperialism, he likes to go there and teach the natives something. Tell the natives how to be. He loves to go tell the natives how to be, even if that means by force. For example, he's not only for Korea, basically European pinkskins separating the Koreans to two and defending one Korean from another Korean. Did anybody ask you to? But not only he's saying that was the correct choice for us to have a foothold in East Asia. That's all it is. The rest of it is hogwash, as Mr. Biden used to say. The rest of it is hogwash. South Korea is a foothold for tanks and airplanes and whatever else the pinkskins want to store in order to attack Asia. Sir, he was saying that why didn't America do the same thing with Afghanistan? This is what he said, that all they had to do is like leave some soldiers behind forever. He actually said that, forever. All the Uncle Sam's managers had to do is just leave some soldiers behind forever. Who cares? You have 50,000. This gentleman brought the number down to 25,000. I believe there are 50,000 soldiers, pink soldiers in East Asia. Pink soldiers from Europe and North America. The pink soldiers are in Korea, separating one Korean from another Korean for some reason or other. Not only he says that's a great thing to do for 80 years, this guy wants to rule. And whatever the price needs to be paid for this cocksucker to rule, or the people he works for them to rule, whatever it takes, they're ready to go. Blood? No problem, we spill it. Who do you have to kill to have an empire? The thing, but this gentleman is, the British have been coaxing Uncle Sam to put together an empire, and the British have been riding on the coattail of this very racist pink skin empire, NATO empire, whatever you want to call it, Anglo-Saxon empire, Anglo-Saxon / Ashkenazi empire. I don't care what you call it. Uncle Sam's empire. The British and the French and the rest of these Europeans have been coaxing Uncle Sam to put together an empire. Here's the thing about you, Mr. Stewart. You said, yeah, we had 80 years of peace and stability, and I would not love to have not to be interrupted, so we can have another 80 years of peace and stability. Sir, you had 80 years of peace and stability. You had 80 years of peace and stability. What you exported was 80 years of war to everybody else, from East Asia to West Asia to Africa to South America, either overt or covert. Either you supported some crazy natives with money and arms and supported them just to keep the place unstable, so you don't have to be worried that they become communists. The thing about most of these countries that you overthrew and put your own guy in charge in Africa, in South America, in Asia, is that you didn't want the other guy to have influence here, so you ran them. In your mind you front ran Soviet Union. It's sort of like, we're not going to sit back and let Soviet Union pick who's going to be the leader in El Salvador. We choose the leader in El Salvador. We're not going to sit back and watch China pick the leader in Honduras. We are going to pick the leader in Honduras. And that's, if not by peacefully, through buying politicians like Filipinos, whatever you want to call it, like there, you like democracy because you just put this Bang Marcos, the son of that thief and a liar, was chosen to again become a thief and a liar on behalf of whoever put him in an office. That would be, Uncle Sam's managers. And no, you had peace and stability in these 80 years. Everywhere else, all you did was start wars. And this gentleman was perfectly okay with it. This is the ex-British soldier. Mind you, who else was like him? Churchill was like him. Bloodthirsty Churchill, who went to South Africa. Churchill, the most well-known British fucking politician, goes to South Africa as a young kid, goes to South Africa as a reporter, then smells the blood and something awakens in him, and he joins the soldiers in order to kill more of the natives. Churchill goes to South Africa as a reporter. Over there, he just can't control himself. He loves the smell of blood so much that he joins the soldiers, the European soldiers whose job was to go around and kill the natives. Colonial force, expeditionary force, whatever the fuck you want to call it. The Foreign Legion. Sir, Here's something you should understand. Trump is not ushering anything. This is these false assumptions that many of you have. You say Trump is ushering in this new world order, which apparently we are not going to be as well positioned as we have been positioned for the past 80 years, i.e. we were positioned in a position of peace and stability, and we threw out our feces at everybody else on the world stage. You know, we messed their shit up. Iraq and Libya, North Africa, South Africa, West Africa, and East Africa, and Asia, and Middle East, and we are still going strong. You never allowed peace and stability for anywhere else. And with the Russians, because you couldn't fight a hot war, because it was, you know, too scary, you started the Cold War. You started the Cold War with the Russians, and you participated in many hot wars with countries that you didn't care about, which would be everybody else on this planet. Right now, you're telling Iran that they can't have nuclear weapons because sometimes in the future you want to go fuck them up the ass, and if they have nuclear weapons, you can't go and fuck them up the ass. That's basically it. When they say nuclear non-proliferation, means, you know, especially Uncle Sam's managers are adamant that nobody else should have nuclear weapons, because if they have nuclear weapons, we cannot go and teach them shit. We cannot go bring them democracy and freedom and this and that. If they have nuclear weapons, then our hands are tied. In that case, I think even, you know, Burkina Faso should have nuclear weapons, because they don't want to be invaded and, you know, have a puppet be put in place like Mr. Mubarak or whoever is running Egypt nowadays. The imperial soldier, this German Rory Stewart, basically said that, you know, it was a good thing. We got rid of, why we left Afghanistan, we got rid of the Taliban, and if we had stayed there, the Taliban would not have come back. And the question is, who gives you the right to get rid of Taliban? How is it that you think it's your place to determine who the fuck should rule Afghanistan? Afghans are going to be governed by people, by anything Afghans deserve to be governed by. Whoever the Afghans deserve to be governed by. If the Afghans deserve to be governed by sane people, the Afghans will be governed by sane people. If the Afghans don't deserve, and it's not a really sane, this is a very, you know, it's a gray, you know, it's not a very thin line to say, okay, on this side, anything. This is what you British pinkskins have always advocated for, that only my culture is the correct culture, my form of economy, my culture, my race, my form of government is the correct one. And there is exactly a thin line here, and anybody I say that belongs on the other side of the line, that means they are on the other side of the line. That's the wrong side of the line, and I have the right to go and teach them a lesson. I say democracy is good. I'm sorry, it hasn't even fucking worked for you. Never has. So you make this as a bloody rag, and you say, because our form of government is the best form of government, so I'm going to fight and kill a whole bunch of Afghans in order to tell them how they should manage themselves. No Taliban. We don't want Taliban there. Who are you? Your responsibility, Mr. Rory Stewart, your responsibility ends at the shoreline of your fucking island. End of story. The British responsibility ends at the end of their shoreline. Once it becomes water, the British have no responsibility, period. Not to teach anybody anything. End. But you don't want to accept that. No. We have to go teach our language to everybody because it's the best language. Is it? I hear Chinese have 7,000 characters. They must have a much deeper language, much more refined language. If you have 7,000 words in your language, it must be much more refined than yours or mine. Just because it's, again, Mr. Rory Stewart, just because it's your penis, it doesn't mean it's the best penis. It's your penis. Good for you. But just because it's mine, it doesn't mean it's the best. An amalgamation of monarchy and democracy, we call it the system in Britain, and this is the best. Everybody should hope for this. And if they don't hope for this, we're gonna start the East India Company and we're gonna come and show you how good we are, how big our penis is. Salute. Your responsibility, British man, ends at the British island. The shores of your British island. That's it. You're not responsible for anybody else. And you weren't responsible for Europe when Germany took over. If you had left them alone, probably Europe would have been much farther ahead. One way or another, if the idea is peace, having one government ruling a whole lot of people, that's going to be much more peaceful than 50 different countries who fight each other every other Wednesday. This is the thing, Mr. Jon Stewart. You especially, you advocate for more racial integration and cohesiveness in order to get a more peaceful result domestically. You say, let's all get together, sing kumbaya, and have a good life. Great idea. But when it comes internationally, the subject of Europe getting closer to China, I believe he used the word madness, or you used the phrase unthinkable. Why? Because they're not white? Because they're not of your culture, what your ideals? Again, this goes to the subject of why are you so uptight about your way of doing things? Why do you think you're right so often? You're so sure of yourself that no, if anybody else doing anything else, governing themselves in any other way, or having a different kind of economy, or if they don't bow at our gods, we have to go kick their ass. Why? Why? Mr. Jon Stewart, really, cultures, governments, forms of economy, they're always evolving, getting a little more private, a little more public, a little more private, a little more public. The idea that we are going to, you agreeing with this British colonial cocksucker, that we should go and we had a foothold. We should keep the foothold, put more soldiers on the ground, keep on the ground, because we know best what is for everybody. I'm glad you brought this guy on your show, because this is exactly the problem. This guy, this mentality. And then at the beginning he starts with, we should have left some soldiers in Afghanistan, it was ours, we had claim to it, to come to Greenland and Canada and say that, how is it Trump that, there is no historical evidence of any kind of claim that Trump can. He went over how Germany claimed Austria and parts of Poland, and how Russia claimed this and claimed that because of some historical evidence. Then he brought it back to Trump and said, America has no historical, does not have any historical claim on Canada or Greenland. The same guy who started with, why did you pull your soldiers out of Afghanistan? We were there. We were riding your coattail as an empire. Why did you pull your soldiers out? We had historical claim over there. That's the same guy. What the difference? Canada is owned by white people who are, especially very close to this gentleman. They're British white people. And Greenland is owned by other white people in Western Europe, who these guys feel kin to. So I guess, your hands off white people's land, or Anglo-Saxons' land, but let's go grab some more brown skin land. Whatever the cost, whatever the cost. Gaza, no problem. How much more ammunition do you need to get us Gaza? Yeah, we have a historical claim from 3,000 years. Yeah, I have a historical claim on Africa from 50,000 years ago. And you, sir, why you use the word madness when there was suggested the Europeans should get closer to China? Maybe Americans get closer to China. Mr. Jon Stewart, how about you perform a couple of your shows for maybe 3 months in China? I'm sure the Chinese will welcome you and leave you alone to do your thing. Yes, getting closer is better, because the opposite of it is going to war. Either Cold War standoffish or hot war, both of which are wrong. So now there is an opportunity to get closer. Sanity says get closer. Insanity says nope. It's madness, and you can't even see it. Why not get closer to everyone? I think the best thing you can do, Mr. Stewart, is just take your show on the road for 3 months, 6 months. Go live in Shanghai for 6 months and do your show from there. I have a feeling just to open up new culture to culture frontiers. I'm sure the Chinese will pick up part of the tab, and that would be a good thing, because you get closer instead of becoming farther apart and eventually going to war. You want to produce, go ahead and produce, but in this way, in this fashion, first you're going to go to war, destroy what they have produced, so then in comparison what you produce would be great. You said there is you said it's not an option getting close to China, and the gentleman, this British fuck, said there's no moral equivalency of America getting farther from Europe and becoming closer to China. Why? It makes sense. Europeans, all they have is attitude. They want to be colonizers. They want to screw everybody all the time. If they want to also produce, go ahead and produce. But no, the Europeans want to ride the coattails of Uncle Sam as an empire and go keep invading these countries and putting them in their place so the Europeans can live high on the hog. And at the same time, they don't know why so many brown and black people have come on. At the same time that you are sending arms to Israel, by means of which they are expelling the natives. At the same time, you're saying we have too much of those natives, we don't want any of them. At the same time that the British were arming the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, which caused a lot of these Afghans to eventually end up in London, they funded the wars that created these refugees. Now they say we don't want the refugees either. Oh, they should have stayed there and died under your bombs, so they wouldn't be in your London. We let them know. Salute. The British gentleman went ahead. We are praying that the world will right itself, that the old United States come back and come back. He ended there. I would add, and help put the white British on top, white upper crust of the British, whatever remains of the British, the French, the Germans, the North American, the old white folks, the old money. We are hoping that Uncle Sam's managers come back and help put white people on top. Basically go to war with Russia, go to war with China, go to war in the Middle East, continue with Gaza. Ukraine. The British have this warm spot in their heart for Ukraine. I'm not sure why. They love to see dead Ukrainians. He went on and on. He was very much for Voice of America, USA, BBC. I'm sure he's very much for these, because these are the voices that say what are the rules to the savages. These are the voices that inform the savages who are not white what the rules are, or what is right. What form of economy is right, what form of government is right, what religion is right, what form of sexuality is right, what form of, why Ashkenazi should be in Asia, why white Ashkenazi should be in brown Asia. This is the job of BBC. This is to tell the natives, the savages, how they should look at the world. That's the job of VOA, BBC, and now a lot of other, Ben Shapiro. It's their job to tell the fucking savage natives where is their place, where they stand, and that is at the bottom. Their life is not worth shit. And the British gentleman was for these sources of decimation of the rules, the British rules, the white man's rules. No, here's the thing, sir, Mr. Jon Stewart. This is not a Trump mess. The mess is that the colonies are speaking to each other more and more. Communication at one time was very expensive. Not any kind of bad communication. There's nothing for the NSA to worry about. No, communication in terms of regular knowing history of each other through internet. You know, the Indian guy reads the history of Pakistan, and he reads the history of Tibet and Nepal and Bangladesh online. Is accessible. All this information is accessible, and eventually more and more people get access to it and learn about it. And it's not Hollywood that tells the history anymore, but it's internet that is telling the history. So the idea that VOA and USAID and this and that is soft power, we're going to spend money in order to tell them who are the good guys, which is us. We're going to print money and spend it on these propaganda organizations in order to tell the savage nativists that we are the good guys. And our ways are the best ways, so obey. Of course the British guys was for this. That's the point of the British whole existence is apparently is to tell everybody how they should exist. He basically, this is what came to my mind that he's saying. At the end of the interview, he said, we are at the existential crisis. And I heard what he continued saying some things, but this is what I heard. We are not killing enough people to advance our ideas. Let's put it this way. We are not killing enough people in the name of advancing our ideas. Ideas, Christianity, capitalism, democracy. The British like to kill people with the pretense of advancing their ideas, which of course are the best ideas because it's their penis. The British love that. They love the killing part, but you know, then you have to say why you're killing, and then you have to explain why am I killing? Because of Christianity. I'm killing because of, you know, money. I'm killing because of, not usually money. I'm killing because of, you know, capitalism. I'm killing because I'm defending one Koreans from another Koreans. I'm killing because I'm defending positive from the negative. The British just want to kill. In advance of our ideas, we are not standing up in advance of our ideas. This was his message. We are not standing up for our ideas. I'm sorry, your ideas, Mr. Jon Stewart, if your ideas, democracy in this case, or how things should be, you execute it yourself and see if it works good for you. You don't really have to stand up for anybody else's ideas. You don't have to say that, you know, those people also want to practice this, so I'm going to help them to practice this, although they're a minority in their country. There were a minority of Ukrainians who are so racist against the Russians, who are living in the same country. But you decided to send money to support those very few crazies who still are the neo-Nazis in Ukraine, in order to advance their cause, which was a crazy cause. So nobody needs your support really. And here's the thing, sir. Something very important came up that I would like to mention here. He said he's from I was talking about, in order to advance our ideas, we should stand up as Europeans, as British, as Americans. We should stand up against our ideas. Capitalism plus democracy makes a heaven. Although there are so many drug addicts in this heaven, you wouldn't believe. Anyway, at the end he mentioned that he runs a non-profit that gives unconditional cash as a gift to very needy people in over there. I say, Mr. Jon Stewart, stay away from this. I smell a rotten fish with this business of unconditional cash grants to very needy people. And this gentleman was basically advocating for this non-profit that he's part of, that yes, you should give money to this non-profit and we will give unconditional cash to very needy people. Sir, Mr. Jon Stewart, this is a very bad idea. I wouldn't touch this, with a 10-foot pole, because let's put it this way. They choose who they give the cash to, correct? Let's just say you may find amongst the people that they give the unconditional cash to, you may find a few coup leaders, you may find a few journalists, you may find a few assassins who get money, unconditional money, in order to assassinate an African leader here and there, or an Asian leader here and there. Very quiet assassination that needs to take place because such and such a leader is not towing the line as far as the British are concerned. They're not following the British to the letter, the British prophet. So I would say they may have a lot of these cases in there, because he seemed to me a very imperialist, white British imperialist kind of guy who loves to bayonet the natives. So I believe that unconditional cash that he becomes responsible to dispense, I believe that unconditional cash will eventually land in the hands of many, although very poor and deserving, but they are in the position in those third world countries, though, between those savage natives, those individuals, although poor, but they are in the position to help maybe assassinate people, maybe orchestrate coup d'etats, maybe sell their people, maybe do a little spying here and a little assassinating there. This money is a bad idea. We give unconditionally as a grant. Yeah, we run over assassins for hire. The British guy had the audacity to say the international legal frameworks and morality is gone when Trump claims Greenland and Canada. I'm hearing that the international legal framework and morality is gone. Everybody's a warlord now. And I'm thinking to myself, motherfuckers, you were warlord 10 years ago, you were warlord 20 years ago, you were warlord 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50. For the past couple of hundred years, you've been warlords all around. Oh, you mean thieves should have honor amongst themselves? Or in this sense, warlords should have honors amongst themselves and don't steal from each other? Sure. Warlords.
You're listening to the free version of Whispering Solo Piano Radio, featuring hundreds of peaceful piano.
Here's the thing, Mr. Jon Stewart. You can control immigration. You and this British cunt can control immigration quite easily. You don't have to use any force. You just have to leave them alone over there. The savage natives, leave them alone to their own ways, to do their own thing, their own way, and you won't have any immigration. End of story. You don't have to build a wall or dig a tunnel or dig a canal, trench with a moat with alligators, and you don't have to do any of that. Leave them alone and they manage. The problem is you don't want to leave them alone. You're sending billions of dollars to Israel to expel the natives over there, and then you will look at them and say, why you guys keep ending up here? Well, you expected them to jump in the ocean? I love the fact that, again, he continued that there is no legal claim for Trump. There are no legal claims for Greenland or Canada for America. I'm like, so there were legal claims for India, legal claims on India for the British? Or the second time around, this is like the fourth time the British have gone into Afghanistan. Is there a legal claim for Afghanistan that the British have that we don't know about? Belonging to not thousands of years ago, belonging to this century, last century. Is there any legal claim for white people have over brown land, black land? And why do they think they have that legal claim? I'm sorry. I love the fact that you interviewed this guy because it was very difficult to hear the gentleman. Listen, not hear. Very difficult to listen to this guy because you have been going down the road that this guy has been setting for you, and you have no money to you have not set aside any money for educating your people, taking care of health of your people, housing your people properly, food, and in general quality of life. You have neglected your people in order to help, in order to assist this guy, because this guy draws a pleasure out of bayoneting people in Nepal and Afghanistan. They have taken advantage of you, the Europeans. The Europeans have taken advantage of Uncle Sam's managers, but not the Chinese, not the Russians. The Europeans have taken advantage. The Europeans have basically scared the pants out of Uncle Sam's managers and pointed the finger at the Russians, the Asians, and the Africans. In many cases, the Europeans actually handed the keys or made another key and handed to Uncle Sam's managers of the key to their old colonies that they could no longer afford to keep. The French gave Uncle Sam's managers Vietnam. Thank you very much. That cost a lot. And the British handed over Taiwan and, Jordan and Saudi Arabia to Uncle Sam. Thank you very much for that. That has just one thing that the Israel, Jordan, Egypt together, mostly Israel of course, but just to keep the situation as is costs something like $10 billion a year collectively. Just to keep it, just keep the killing going, because we want to house some white people in brown land to the Sane Society. And unfortunately, on many instances, you agreed with this gentleman. And the funny thing is, you both have the same problem. You have the Rust Belt, and this gentleman called it the wool hat or something. They have equivalent of Rust Belt. Again, empire were the emperors when the 10% ruling class didn't give a fuck about the peasants. They just expected the peasants to live nice with each other. That's why the ruling class in England doesn't mind brown or black. This gentleman idea was that yes, brown and black people, white, brown and black people in England should get along nicely together. Now let's go kick some ass in those brown lands. So the peasants at home should get along nicely together because we want stability at home and we don't care about the color of the peasants. We just need them to get along together. But those motherfuckers over there, the peasants over there, they are our enemies. We have to go kick some ass. We don't need to get along with them. Mr. Jon Stewart, I love you, man, but in two instances, you're showing that you got a bit of racism in you. One in regards with Germany, that you assume that the Germans are these murderer maniacs. Well, no, it was the British who blockaded them both times in World War I and World War II. It was all British. The British blockaded the German industry, just like they have done again through Mrs. Clinton and Victoria Nuland by creating a fire in Ukraine and destroying the good relationship that the Germans had with the Russians. Technology for fuel, technology for energy, technology for raw resources and energy, technology for raw resources, and this had a great relationship. And the British, through Americans, through Mrs. Clinton and Victoria Nuland, and that neocon idea, they destroyed the good relationship that the Germans had with the Russians. And now the British are going to suffocate the Germans, and the Germans are going to go to war again. No, the Germans are not crazy as long as the British leave them alone. The British are sadistic assholes. And again, they have isolated Germans again. Again. And then you say about the getting closer to China. Unimaginable. Why? They have a different system. There's a different government. Okay. You have a different government. No, it's not. Your government is not better because that's again goes back to your penis. No, your penis is not the best penis. I don't care if it's Donald Trump's penis or Jon Stewart's penis. It's not the best penis. You got your own penis. It's not the best. China is running differently, but have you noticed it's running very smoothly and with stability and prosperity? Is that good enough? Have you been able to do that? Then quit complaining that bragging that our system is better, because the result of your system has not been better. You have been spilling blood non-stop. Europeans, when they were monarchy as well as when they were democracy, they have been spilling blood non-stop for a couple of centuries now. A little war here and a little war there and a little coup here and a little coup there, and a little assassination here and another assassination there. And symphony of bloodshed. No, sir. Peace and stability. You had peace and stability. No. The British have, enticed you to get involved and spill a lot of blood in the name of good. Salute. Thank you for bringing this guy to just show exactly what the pitfalls of thinking with this imperial mindsets, and the result, as we can see, out of money, out of budget, up to eyeballs in debt to who knows whom, because the gentleman prefers to go bayoneting some Afghan goats than sit in London and do balance the budget.